Welcome to the Neighborhood News Network. I'm your host, Kevin Frazier, and this is the news close to you. Joel Engardio is up next with a Civic Minute. And we're back again with our City Hall correspondent, Joel Engardio. Joel, can you tell us more about how small businesses are faring during these trying times?
Well, the coronavirus pandemic has been brutal to small businesses, especially restaurants. There was the owner of the St. Francis Fountain, a 102-year-old institution in San Francisco, and the owner was quoted in the Chronicles talking about an extinction level event. But what's interesting is that that quote was not talking about coronavirus. He was saying that we were already facing an extinction level event even before coronavirus. So that lets you know kind of the state of small business in San Francisco, that despite the horribleness of the pandemic, small businesses were facing extinction even beforehand in the boom times. So there's a lot that we need to do to make things right with our small business in San Francisco, because there's a lot at jeopardy right now.
So, Joel, given that we were already facing an extinction level event, what were the factors? What was the meteor that was hitting these small businesses and continues to hit them?
Right. Well, the owner of the St. Francis Fountain had talked about why are we trying to save ourselves from the pandemic when the city was trying to destroy us for 10 years prior? And what he was meaning is that the onerous regulations and rules and permits were killing small business before coronavirus. And a great example is in 2019, which was a great boom year of the economy, we had 384 permit requests for new restaurants. This doesn't sound too bad. It's like, that's a lot of new restaurants asking for permits, right? But what's not told is 535 restaurants closed in San Francisco in 2019 during the boom times. The bottom line is that these permits, rules, regulations, taxes, fees has been killing business, and we need to eliminate that if we have any hope of bringing small business back through the pandemic. And as we do get through the pandemic, we can't go back to business as usual because it was already hard. And now they've been given this extra blow of the pandemic. So we need to do more to ensure that they can survive.
Right. And Joel, that's a great reference back to our last episode when we heard from Phyllis, who talked about small businesses being the flavor, the essence of San Francisco. And obviously, no small business, no person in general likes filling out forms. But what's so onerous about these permits? How long are they taking? What makes them so inhibitive to making sure San Francisco can be a spot where small businesses thrive?
Well, if you have a good idea and you want to open a storefront, you might have to potentially fill out 200 permits just for a storefront. And there are things like, if you want to open a candy store or a chocolate store or a corner store, but the candy store could sell chocolate, the corner store can sell candy. I guess the chocolate store only sells chocolate. But there you go. It just goes on from there. The amount of permits and regulation on all of these different aspects of what is a piece of candy and what kind of store is it sold in. So that's just one example. Back in 2012, there was a place called the Ice Cream Bar, which opened in Coal Valley. It took the owner $200,000 in 2 years to get through the process to open. And it was a great idea. It was a combination of an ice cream parlor and a bar, serving alcohol and liquor, put a little something in your milkshake, right? Great idea, very popular, but it blew the minds of City Hall. They didn't know what bucket to put it in. What is it? Is it an ice cream parlor? Is it a bar? Oh no. So we're just gonna do whatever we can to throw up roadblocks. It was so bad, the New York Times did a big feature story about it in 2012 and brought some shame on leaders at City Hall. And they were all quoted in 2012, oh yeah, this is terrible. We're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it. Well, here we are. And it wasn't fixed. So maybe the pandemic will wake everyone up to say San Francisco needs to do better. We need to break down the barriers, make it easy. If entrepreneurs have a good idea, let them run with it because they need all the help they can get. San Francisco is a beautiful place where everyone wants to be. And we rely on all the tourism and the conventions and all the people who come here. Well, when that, because of that, businesses were willing to put up with all of the fees and regulations because they thought, well, I'll put up with this because I'm going to get all of these people coming into the city. And the city said, we can get away with it because we know people will put up with it, right? Well, with no tourists coming anymore, and taking a year or two for it to come back, we've lost our golden goose. And so we cannot expect businesses to put up with it anymore because they'll go to Austin, they'll go to Los Angeles, they'll go to San Jose, they'll go to places where it's much easier to operate a business.
Wow. Well, after hearing those stats, I could certainly use a boozy milkshake of my own.
We all could. Yes. Meet me at the ice cream bar.
There we go.
We'll get one to go and drink it on the sidewalk.
Gosh. Well, thanks for joining us, Joel. Always a delight to hear from our City Hall correspondent. Can't wait to hear what you have for us next week.
Thank you. And thanks for letting me be part of the Neighborhood News Network. It's a fantastic idea.
Thanks so much. And now it's time for another report from our own Jeremy Strickland.
Howdy, my name is Jeremy Strickland, and I'll be your host for Neighborhood News Network. Today, I'm speaking with Tom Mills, owner of Nickie's Irish Pub in the Lower Haight District of San Francisco. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
My first question is, after being a regular at Nickie's Pub for many years, you decided to purchase the location. What prompted you to do so?
Well, I was getting to a point in my career where I wanted to look into mixing things up a little bit. And as one of the regulars puts it, it's the neighborhood living room. A lot of people come here after work. You don't know who you're going to see, but you're going to see other people, and they end up just hanging out. I told the owner I wanted it, and here I am.
That's great. Well, Tom, since you're now the owner and proprietor, how have things been going? Just give us a general update.
So our first day of operations was 2 days before the Super Bowl. It was a great start. And then our last day of real operation was the day before St. Patrick's Day. So we were really getting all aligned, and then the world stopped. And I've had a chance to really clean a lot.
I would imagine so. Well, one of the things that I'm sure that has affected you has been the COVID situation. And that's affected many restaurant and bars in San Francisco. So for those who do not know, San Francisco's Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control has temporarily relaxed several regulations in order to provide some relief for restaurants and bars that have been affected or hit by shelter-in-place orders. Now, getting a bit wonky, in public policy circles, we would call this type of intervention regulatory relief. While the primary goal is to contain and stop the spread of COVID-19, the careful relaxation of regulatory policy can help stimulate economic activity, and in doing so, help businesses stay afloat. Now, Tom, how has this regulatory relief helped you as the owner of Nickie's?
Not a ton yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
We've tried to do some takeout. From a food perspective, we're sheltered in place, so there's not a lot of foot traffic. I will say, after they got absolutely berated, the delivery apps have been coming around and been a little bit more reasonable, doing promotions with 0% commissions and things like that for new restaurants, which is great. It's still challenging in that, for instance, delivering alcohol. If a delivery driver takes our beer and brings it to a house, and there's an underage person at the house that's taking the beer, and then we are in position of potentially losing our license. I think alternatives to the apps would be a good thing to consider as well. I've talked to a couple of the local restaurants here about maybe pooling together to get a delivery guy if we can't justify one on our own. But it gets pretty crazy. Nobody knows what the rules are anymore, so everybody's just trying to figure it out.
I really like that. So one of the things that I'm hearing there, the big theme is, rather than being, kind of this competitive where we're all competing for dollars at the dinner table, right? What we're actually doing now is we're collaborating with the restaurants across the street. We're collaborating with the pet store owners down the way. Do you feel that has basically created a larger sense of community?
I think Lower Haight in particular has actually always been pretty good at this. It is a pretty tight community just because I think it's bounded by so many of those other ones where people are coming in from their condos in whatever other part of the city or what have you.
So another one of the areas that many small and medium businesses, such as bars and restaurants, have relied on has been public sector funding. Tom, would love to know, did you apply for any federal funding through the Paycheck Protection Plan?
Yep. I did both the I've tried for pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So I did get the PPP loan. I did not get approved for the Main Street loan either. Part of my challenge is that I haven't been in business long enough. My staff consists of typically of 5 hourly bartenders. In San Francisco, they make the minimum wage of $15.90. So I was in the Northeast where wait staff would get like $3 an hour. So it's kind of a different world out here. I have a few kitchen folks who are making a little bit more than that, and then one head of the kitchen who was on salary. As soon as they told us we were shutting down, I laid everybody off. And then once I got the PPP funds, I did bring back the head of the kitchen. Between the fact that I don't have work for anybody else and they are making more money on unemployment than I would be able to pay them. They're making roughly $25 an hour right now on unemployment. I don't even know how they do it in states where they have lower minimum wages. That's
super interesting. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, that things will continue to pick up and go a little bit better. So one of the things that I've heard is that many restaurants and pubs literally have beer expiring in their tap lines. Has Nickie's experienced that, and what are you doing to combat it?
I would have to assume so. We have 18 taps altogether. I will say we did stock up on Guinness because of St. Patrick's Day, sure. And there's worse places you could have to be stuck during a lockdown than in a bar filled with Guinness kegs. I don't know when I'm going to be able to reopen, so I'm not really doing anything about it quite yet, but I'm guessing I'm going to have to toss all of that, flush the lines, and start over again.
So we've talked about what's been going on. We've explored maybe some new ideas that we could try. Let's go to what's on the horizon. So per the recent announcement by Mayor London Breed, restaurants can now offer outdoor dining spaces. How does Nickie's plan to capitalize on this easing of restrictions?
Unfortunately, I don't know that we'll be able to. We're in the middle of a block. I have a normal sidewalk and then metered parking spots out in front of it. So I'm not certain I'll be able to make anything happen there. I've sent in a suggestion that they should maybe do the quiet streets and lock it down for certain periods, things along those lines. So if they do something along those lines, I'll be certainly taking advantage. But otherwise, it's great for the people who have an opportunity. But yeah, we just don't hear.
And so one of the things that we see in cities such as Portland, Boston, and New York are the use of what we call parklets. Now, Tom, if the city of San Francisco were to ease some of these road restrictions, as you mentioned, and allow parklets, do you think Nickie's would be interested in exploring this option?
I'm pretty certain I would need to have a third person on shift all the time these days, just to make sure that no one's coming in the door, that they're cleaning up all the time, clearing dishes, taking food back and forth. Things like, hey, here's 2 tables out in the street.
Right.
That's nice, but it's not going to make enough of a difference to not make it a losing proposition.
But cool stuff. Glad we could explore that idea together. So this is the last part of the interview here because I know we're right on time. We're going to play a quick game. So I'm going to name a typical pub food, and then I want you to give me the perfect beverage pairing for it. Tom, you ready to play?
Oh, sure.
All right. Your first one, buffalo wings.
Cold light beer. Personally, I would go with Miller Lite.
Nice. That's a good one. All right. Next one. The favorite of every little kid in America, mac and cheese.
So you'll probably find out I'm very much a beer guy. So with the mac and cheese, I'd go a darker beer like a Guinness.
All right. Third one, all-American cheeseburger.
I honestly don't really like drinking with cheeseburgers for some reason. I know it's weird. I drink before and I drink after them, but I prefer water while I'm eating a cheeseburger.
I like that one. So that's an interesting answer. That's a good one. All right. 2 more to go. This next one I think is pretty straightforward. Nachos.
Nachos. Margarita.
Oh, that's a good one. All right. Then finally, this one's a little bit of a curveball. A nice salad.
Yeah, I'll stick with the Guinness.
I like it. You're drinking your calories rather than eating them. So
it's actually the lightest of the beers. Very few people understand that.
It is actually fewest of the calories. So
yep.
Very cool stuff. All right. Well, Tom, we have one final question for you, and I think this is probably the most important question that I'm going to ask you during our time today. And thank you for spending this time with me. How can residents of San Francisco continue to support local businesses like Nickie's Irish Pub during the upcoming days and weeks?
So You asked this question without a ton of time left, but I think it's actually the $1 million question. While I would love to have the regulars come back and get their meals here, that alone won't save myself or any of the other businesses. We need to rethink the entire business model. Presuming that we're in this for a while, what services can a bar provide to the rest of the community?
I think that's a great answer. And viewers, for anybody who's, for all those who are still listening, I should say, make sure to go by Nickie's Irish Pub. Not go by, but order online is a better way to say, and get your food delivered and have a nice burger, maybe, and pair that with a Guinness before and a Guinness after.
Thanks for watching the Neighborhood News Network. News by neighbors, for neighbors. See you next time.